Machiavelli never told you to erase your feelings. He never said emotions were a weakness. What he did reveal sharp as a scalpel was this: if you don't control your emotions, someone else will. And the moment they do, you've already lost power. In a world obsessed with being authentic and speaking your truth, emotional detachment sounds cold, even cruel. But Machiavelli knew better. He knew that if you want to rule in business relationships, politics, or life itself, you must learn how to step back from feelings before making decisions. You must dominate without appearing heartless. That is the essence of emotional mastery. Not numbness, but weaponized calm. Not avoidance, but control. The first law: never let emotion choose for you. Most people believe their feelings are sacred. They cry, they scream, they rage, they retreat, and they call it authenticity. But in Machiavellian terms, that's nothing but an open invitation for manipulation. Because once someone discovers what makes you jealous, what makes you angry, what breaks you, they don't need to overpower you. They only need to press the right button. Machiavelli would say, the one who guides emotions without being guided by them becomes untouchable. That's why the first step toward emotional mastery is to separate the emotion from the decision. You can feel anger, but you don't act on it immediately. You can feel fear, but you plan from logic, not panic. The key is this: you don't react, you respond. You insert a pause between impulse and action. Sometimes it's just a breath, a short silence, a deliberate stillness. But that pause gives you leverage. The instant you stop being a slave to your feelings is the instant you become unreadable. Think of the contrast. When others lash out, you observe. When others panic, you analyze. People fear what they cannot predict, and your stillness becomes a shield. But don't mistake this for suppression. It's not about bearing emotion. It's about drawing it like a sword only when it serves you. Anger, sadness, passion, they all have value, but only when used with precision. That's emotional mastery, not the absence of feeling, but the power to decide when and how to reveal it. Machiavelli's second law of emotional mastery is this: never let them see the wound that bleeds. Everyone carries insecurities, scars, or regrets. But the more visible your wounds, the easier it is for others to exploit them. Think about it: if your rivals know exactly what triggers you, they don't need strength to beat you. They only need precision. A single word, a single reminder, a subtle hint at your weakness, and suddenly you're off balance. That's why Machiavelli advised rulers to cloak vulnerability. Not to deny it exists, but to hide it so deeply that no one can wield it against you. In practice, this means controlling your tells, the twitch in your voice when you're nervous, the way you rush to explain when accused, the anger that flares when someone insults you. Every tell is a gift to those who wish to dominate you. But if you train yourself to stay composed, your enemies are left in the dark, unsure where to strike. This isn't about pretending you're invincible. It's about being strategically opaque. You let people see what you choose to show them, never what you can't control. If you reveal weakness, it's selective design to mislead, to make others underestimate you, while your true strength remains hidden. Machiavelli also understood the danger of oversharing. Most people reveal far too much too soon, hoping for sympathy, validation, or connection. But the more of yourself you put on the table, the less mystery surrounds you. And once the mystery is gone, so is a large part of your leverage. Silence, on the other hand, creates fear. It leaves people guessing, wondering what you're thinking, questioning if you've seen through them. And in that uncertainty, they often sabotage themselves. The truth is, the world doesn't reward raw honesty, it rewards calculated revelation. Machiavelli would say, show your mask, not your scars. Because the more they search for your weakness and fail to find it, the more powerful you appear. Machiavelli's third law of emotional mastery is learn to use emotion as a weapon, not a leash. Most people are dragged by their emotions like prisoners chained to impulses. But the Machiavellian mind flips the chain, using emotion to manipulate others while staying detached from it personally. Why? Because people don't follow logic, they follow feelings. Nations go to war not because of reason, but because leaders ignite fear, pride, or anger. Lovers stay bound not by rational calculation, but by the chemistry of passion and jealousy. Crowds obey not because of evidence, but because of the pull of hope or the sting of fear. Machiavelli saw this truth clearly. The one who can stir emotions in others while keeping their own calm rules the game. So how do you use this? First, by reading the emotional current in the room. Is the group leaning toward fear? Feed their fear, then offer safety. Are they chasing hope? Stoke it then, present yourself as the answer. If they're angry, sharpen their anger toward your target, not you. Second, by mastering displays. You don't need to feel anger to look angry. You don't need to feel passion to project passion. If showing emotion gives you an edge, show it, but make sure it's an act you control, not an eruption that controls you. Think of it like theater. The actor who cries on stage isn't broken. He's in control of the scene. The same is true in life. If you know when to raise your voice, when to let silence hang, when to look wounded, when to radiate certainty, you bend the audience, the rival, the ally all at once. But here's the crucial rule: never live inside the emotion you project. If you fake anger, don't become it. If you display warmth, don't drown in it. Always stay one step outside, pulling the strings instead of being tangled in them. Because the one who feels deeply but hides it while making others feel uncontrollably is the one who shapes destiny. Machiavelli would remind us emotion is fire. Warm your allies with it, burn your enemies with it, but never let it consume you. Machiavelli's fourth law of emotional mastery is patience is power. Not the weak, passive kind of patience that waits helplessly, but the deliberate, razor-sharp patience that watches, measures, and chooses the perfect moment. Most people are slaves to immediacy. They feel anger and lash out. They feel fear and retreat. They feel desire and chase. And in that rush, they expose themselves. Machiavelli understood that the ability to delay your reaction, to hold back, even when every nerve demands movement, is what separates rulers from the ruled. Patience allows you to see what others miss. When someone tries to provoke you, don't give them the satisfaction of a quick response. Wait. Watch how far they'll go to get a reaction. Often in their desperation, they'll reveal their true motives. That information is gold, and it only comes to the one who resists the urge to leap. In politics, patience allows rival factions to exhaust themselves before you intervene. In business, patience lets competitors burn resources in a frenzy while you strike when they're weak. In personal relationships, patience insults insults fade into irrelevance, while your silence grows heavier and more unsettling by the second. But patience isn't inactivity, it's preparation. It's sharpening your blade while others swing wildly. It's gathering allies, securing your position, and waiting until the timing itself becomes your weapon. And when you finally move, it doesn't look rushed or desperate. It looks inevitable, as though the entire sequence of events was always leading to your decision. That's the real magic of Machiavellian patience. When you act last, you act with all the information, all the leverage, and all the certainty. Machiavelli would say the impatient man may win the first move. The patient man wins the war. Machiavelli's fifth law of emotional mastery is never fight on the ground chosen by your enemy. Emotional traps are the most common battlegrounds. Someone insults you to drag you into anger. Someone flaunts success to pull you into envy. Someone pressures you to make you act in fear. The moment you step onto their field, you've already lost. Instead, Machiavelli advised rulers to shift the battlefield. If someone tries to provoke you with insults, don't answer with anger, answer with indifference. Nothing is more disarming than a calm smile in the face of provocation. If someone tries to intimidate with status or wealth, don't react with competition, react with subtle contempt, as if their display is beneath your notice. If someone tries to rush you into a decision, slow down even more. The strategy is simple: refuse to play their game. Force them to play yours. Every time you resist the urge to react in the way they expect, you regain control. They grow frustrated, unstable, and eventually overextend themselves. This is why Machiavelli valued emotional redirection. If someone comes at you with aggression, don't meet aggression with aggression. Redirect it. Respond with silence, with wit, or with a move so unexpected that it throws them off balance. By refusing to mirror their emotion, you show you are not bound by their rhythm. In personal life, this can be devastatingly effective. Imagine someone trying to humiliate you publicly, expecting you to lash out. Instead, you laugh lightly as if their words were trivial. They look foolish, desperate for a reaction you'll never give. The audience sees calm strength in you and insecurity in them. In politics, the same principle applies. Rivals bait you into defensive speeches. Machiavelli would stay silent until the right moment, then deliver a single cutting statement that reframed the entire debate. While they fought in chaos, he controlled the narrative. The truth is, people reveal themselves most when they're ignored. By refusing to fight on their terms, you let them expose their desperation. And when they finally collapse under the weight of their own tactics, you're still standing calm, untouchable. Machiavelli would say, he who chooses the battlefield chooses the victory. Machiavelli's sixth law of emotional mastery is turn distance into strength. Most people crave constant validation, constant reassurance, constant presence. They fear being forgotten, fear being ignored, fear being left out of the conversation. That fear makes them predictable. Machiavelli saw the opposite truth: absence, when used correctly, is not weakness, it's leverage. Distance creates mystery. When you are always available, your presence loses value. But when you pull back, when you withdraw intentionally, people start to wonder. Where are you? What are you planning? Why aren't you responding? Their imagination does more work than you ever could. They begin to project power onto you simply because they can't see you. This is why Machiavelli understood the art of strategic withdrawal. In politics, a leader who doesn't comment immediately on a scandal allows rivals to exhaust themselves while the public grows hungry for his eventual words. In business, a competitor who stays quiet while others scramble creates the impression that he's in control, even if he's still calculating. In relationships, a moment of absence makes your presence heavier when you return. But there's a balance. Too much distance and you risk irrelevance. Too little and the power of absence is lost. The mastery lies in choosing when to appear and when to vanish, timing your presence so that each appearance feels like an event. Machiavelli would also remind us that absence is a test. The people who crumble without your constant attention reveal their dependence. The ones who grow anxious or desperate in your silence show you where their weaknesses lie. In this way, your distance gathers intelligence, exposing loyalties, insecurities, and fears. And when you return, you don't return casually, you return with precision. Every word, every gesture carries more weight because it arrives after silence. What you say once has more impact than what others repeat 100 times. Machiavelli would say presence impresses, but absence commands. Machiavelli's seventh law of emotional mastery is control the ending and you control the memory. People rarely remember every detail of an encounter. What they remember is how it ended. If you stumble at the start but close with strength, you'll be remembered as strong. If you dominate at first but collapse in the final moment, you'll be remembered as weak. This is why Machiavelli always played for the close. He understood that the last words, the last move, the final gesture, these are what echo in the minds of both your opponent and the audience. Sometimes that meant ending with silence. A sharp pause, a calm stare, and then leaving without explanation. That silence lingers longer than any speech. Other times it meant ending with a statement so concise and cutting that it rewrote the whole exchange. A single sentence can overturn an entire argument if delivered at the right moment. In politics, Machiavelli used this by refusing to respond to every attack. Instead, he let opponents rant, exhaust themselves, and then delivered a single decisive remark that closed the matter. The audience forgot the noise, they remembered the ending. In personal dynamics, this might mean leaving a conversation before it spirals, signaling that you decide when it's over. Or ending with a small but symbolic act like refusing to argue further and simply smiling as if the outcome is already decided. The mastery lies in restraint. Don't try to win every point in the middle of the exchange. Save your strength for the close, because the close is what defines the story. Machiavelli would say the last move doesn't just end the game, it decides how the game is remembered. Machiavelli's eighth law of emotional mastery has become unreadable. The greatest advantage you can hold over others is uncertainty. If they can't predict your next move, they can't prepare against it. If they can't read your feelings, they can't manipulate them. Most people are transparent. Their faces reveal irritation, jealousy, fear, or excitement within seconds. Their tone betrays their nerves. Their behavior telegraphs their intentions before they've even acted. That's why they're so easy to control. But when you master unreadability, you force the world to play in the dark. Every silence becomes a possibility. Every gesture becomes layered with meaning. Your rivals begin to hesitate not because of what you've done, but because of what they imagine you might do. This doesn't mean becoming robotic. It means blending clarity and opacity at will. Show warmth when it benefits you. Show intensity when it bends the room in your favor. But behind it all, never reveal the full map of your emotions or intentions. Leave gaps. Leave ambiguity. Make others fill in the blanks with their own fears. Unreadability creates pressure. People project their anxieties onto you, turning you into a larger force than you really are. They second-guess themselves, revise strategies, and often defeat themselves before you've lifted a finger. In business, an unreadable leader makes rivals cautious. In politics, an unreadable figure becomes feared because no one can predict where they'll strike. In relationships, unreadability creates intrigue, keeping others invested in trying to figure you out. But the true art is balance. Too much opacity and you risk alienation. Too much openness and you become predictable. Machiavelli's brilliance was knowing when to show just enough to draw people in while keeping the core hidden. Because the moment others can't read you, they stop trying to fight you directly. Instead, they adapt around you, giving you quiet control. Machiavelli would say, the less they know, the more they fear. The more they fear, the more they obey. Machiavelli's ninth and final law of emotional mastery is, make your calm more frightening than their rage. Power isn't always about who shouts loudest or strikes first. Sometimes it's about who can remain composed while others unravel. Most people equate intensity with strength. They slam fists, raise voices, hurl threats. But in reality, those are signs of lost control. Machiavelli saw through the performance. He knew that true dominance is quiet, steady, deliberate. A calm presence unsettles people far more than an outburst ever could because it suggests you see the bigger picture and you're already planning beyond their noise. Imagine a rival screaming insults at you, expecting fire in return. Instead, you look at them with steady eyes, perhaps even a faint smile. That moment of restraint flips the power dynamic. They appear desperate. You appear untouchable. The crowd sees the contrast and instinctively sides with the one who doesn't lose composure. Calm also magnifies your words. When you finally choose to speak, your voice cuts through like a blade in silence. A single phrase delivered without haste can carry more weight than an hour of shouting. People lean in when the calm one speaks because they know it isn't wasted energy, it's precision. This is why Machiavelli believed emotional mastery was the ultimate weapon. It isn't about being cold or lifeless. It's about radiating a sense of inevitability, as if nothing can shake you from your path. Others may rage, but rage burns out quickly. Calm endures. In politics, this aura makes enemies hesitant to challenge you. In leadership, it inspires trust because people equate calm with control. In personal conflict, it disarms opponents because they can't get the reaction they crave. And so the cycle completes. Emotional mastery is not about denying emotion, it's about commanding it. To feel deeply but reveal selectively. To provoke in others what you refuse to allow in yourself. To time your reactions so perfectly that your silence becomes strategy, your patience becomes pressure, and your calm becomes fearsome. Machiavelli would leave us with this truth. He who commands his own emotions commands the emotions of the world.